Welcome to a lovely Saturday edition of the WrestleWatch podcast, the only podcast where we talk about free agency in the world of professional wrestling. I am Ryan.
And I'm Doug, here with my coffee.
How's your coffee today, Doug?
Well, I went with the Maxwell House this week, and
Mhm.
compared to the Folgers, it's the same. I really can't tell the difference between coffee, like any coffee. It all tastes the same to me. I don't know if that's a weird thing.
Nah, it's not that weird. Especially if you're just doing medium roast, maybe. Like, it's just gonna feel very samey, to me at least. I don't know.
Yeah, that's usually what it is. Because I don't, I will say, well, I shouldn't say that because I will say this: Starbucks is a little harsh. Um, but I will get Starbucks if I need to wake up. Like I do notice that difference. Like Starbucks is wake you up coffee.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the big difference. But other than that, it's like it all tastes the same.
Yeah. Well, it has been a little bit of a wake up call for us with a few people this week on yeah,
What a segue.
I'm a
What a
Segway
segue.
master. You can call me a tour guide because I'm a master of
Yes.
segways. Yeah, so we have a little bit of a busy episode for us, but a lot of it is just kind of things that are very apparent of which way they're going, it seems. For example, we'll be talking about Mustafa Ali, Jordynne Grace, and Josh Alexander. It seems like the wind is blowing a very obvious direction for those few. We also have on the podcast today, we'll be discussing Alexa Bliss, Nikki Bella, and Thekla, and what's happening with those folks. A little bit of an update on AJ Styles as well. But first, we're just gonna talk about I guess the hot thing right now. Well, that's the WrestleWatch tier list for people that are watching on YouTube. That's not the hot thing right now because that's last week's tier list. It's gone. The hot thing right now, it seems to be, is Britt Baker actually. So to give people a little bit of a what is going on with this situation here, let me just get myself situated so I can talk about this a little bit. Um,
Story time.
story
Story
time,
time with Britt Baker.
baby.
Baby. Yep.
Ooh, that's spicy already. So Britt Baker has not been used in AEW since November. There is reportedly animosity towards her in the AEW locker room stemming from various interpersonal issues. Um, the MJF Alicia Toot one is one. Things just bubbling still from the Thunder Rosa things. Um, Seemed like there might have been heat about the Serena D nobody cares comment. Wade Keller and Dave Meltzer both say she's not done with the company, but who knows about her future. Sean Ross Sapp's take was that it's unlikely she never returns, which is weird phrasing, but it's Sean Ross Sapp.
Yeah. So
Her,
so he's saying it's likely she'll be back.
yeah.
Yeah.
Her deal essentially somebody asked him on his Discord, do you think it's unlikely she returns? And his response was, yeah, it's unlikely. And they're like, are you saying it's unlikely that she returns or that she doesn't return? And says like unlikely she never returns. So yeah,
Thank
it's
you, Sean.
thank you, Sean. Very Meltzerese of him. Um, her deal is believed by Dave Meltzer to have a number of years remaining. Baker had re-signed in September 2021, meaning a 3-year deal would have expired in the last few months, especially with injury time. But a 5-year deal, which is possible because that was around the time when things like Malachi Black's long-term deal and Miro's long-term deal were also being signed, would expire in late 2026. So if Dave is saying there's a number of years remaining, it's likely that she signed a 5-year deal in 2021 that's going to go through 2026. Um, this is more of us just chatting about it because she's not going to join the tier list. But there was also, and we don't need to really get into the gossip side of what's going on with this. But there was a certain wrestling personality that's been getting in a lot of heat this week because they share things that are gossip that might not even be true. And one of those things was about Britt Baker. So some of the buzz about her this week and why she's coming up in conversation is due to people spreading lies about her. So I just wanted to establish that there are things that are going out there that are not true about Britt Baker right now. The reports of the animosity have been said by multiple people that I would say we would trust more or less. If Wade Keller and Dave Meltzer and Sean Ross Sapp are all saying like, yeah, there's some issues. There probably are some issues, but none of them are saying that it's likely that she's going to leave and she's done forever right now. So Doug, what is your reaction to all of that? Do you think that we've seen the last of her in AEW? Do you think that she's likely going to leave, or do you think that this is just people um, getting on the rumor mill about this because there was a slightly salacious rumor about her that was debunked this week?
Well, let me start by saying I'm not. Once again, I won't. I also won't like dig into the actual allegations and things like that because I don't think it's worth doing. But I will say that I think that the person who did it, this is maybe a wake up call to them that maybe, at one point you were too small for anyone to pay attention to you. Maybe that is no longer the case and you got to be a little more careful.
Yeah.
So let's start with that. Now, in terms of where Britt Baker is, tend to, I think it's fair to say that, I agree with Dave and Wade and Sean that there probably was some stuff going on backstage for years at this point. I think it's been pretty well documented. And I'm not denying any of those things. Having said that, I also don't see, and I could believe that she's under contract for a while. And there's no reason for me to believe that they're going to let her out of her deal early.
Probably not, no.
So I'm just starting with the things that we know. We know she's under contract currently, likely for a number of years, and she's not likely going to be released. Regardless of if she wants to be there or if she's happy or if she's coming back, those things are extra at this point. So she's going to be there for a while, I would say. So for that reason, that's why I don't think we're considering her for the tier list, because I don't think there's any situation where she's going anywhere. Is that fair to start?
I think in the short term, or rather, by the end of 2025, do we see her leaving AEW term? Because that is what we do here on WrestleWatch
I'd
with
say
the tier list.
absolutely, probably not.
Probably, I would say it is low enough confidence that she shouldn't, possibly should not go on the tier list right now.
Yes,
I think it's possible, but very unlikely. Like something drastic would have to happen.
I agree. Now, I think that we are in the new paradigm here, and I think we could say this with pretty firm confidence, especially following the Penta situation, that if you are an AEW talent, that is the surest way to get a push in WWE.
Yes,
I think we're at that point now. It doesn't matter if you're mid Carter or not. If you can't, like we saw Ethan Page as the NXT champion, or is? No, he still is, right? No,
he is not anymore. No.
Yeah, he lost to Oba Femi, right?
He lost to. I thought it was to Trick Williams.
Man, I am bad at NXT.
NXT is a buzzsaw of a place. He lost to Obafemi. Yeah. Oh, I'm confused because Obafemi was the North American champion for most of 2024. So I'm still in my mind see him as that champion rather than being the top champion right now.
Yes.
And Trick Williams was the top champion for most of 2024, so that's why I'm like that's what's going on in my head right now.
Yeah, I follow NXT, but I don't watch NXT.
I only watch. Oh, actually, it happened on. It was Trick Williams was the champion until 2 weeks ago, and then he lost it to Obafemi. So that is even. It's more that I've just not kept up with NXT in the last month than it is that I have not kept up with NXT at all.
we are defending ourselves here. Anyway, so the bottom line though is that if you came from AEW, like typically you're gonna get pushed in WWE. I don't think there's really been an example lately. I mean, I can't like maybe who's the worst case? Like the worst example is maybe Andrade, and even he got a relative push.
Well, he was made champion first off.
Yes.
Yes. I mean, the questionable South African champion, but a champion nonetheless, and he has been in the U.S. title scene and not just been relegated to purely just lucha stables. So like they're giving him something right now, and I think that when Charlotte returns, that there might be something more for him as well.
Yeah, and say what you will about Jade, but she's like someone who I like Jade. I always did. I like the way that she's been presented in AEW. But WWE did pretty much tried to present her in the same way. Uh, Maybe not as successfully because I don't think they did as good a job of hiding her faults.
I think that what happened with it was that by the end of her time in AEW, she was a fantastic seller. And I think that that was coming from the work she was doing with people like Dustin Rhodes and Bryan Danielson that she was talking about. She had gotten to the point where she could take bumps and look good taking bumps from other people, right?
Yeah, when she
And
wasn't a great seller before.
when she wasn't before, correct, and she was just not taking bumps at all, or just no selling, and that was the way that they were getting around it. When they brought her to WWE, for some reason, she just stopped taking bumps for a while again. And it was like that they felt like she couldn't sell bumps. And then it felt like she regressed then when she started taking bumps again. It was like they had just reset her back to like the beginning of her TBS reign and how they were using her when she was already progressed far beyond that, in my opinion. I think that Jade is one of the shining examples of somebody that had no experience to being somebody that's like legit very quick, especially with aura. And like I think that she doesn't get enough credit about how much progress she made in AEW by the time that she left. But that's just me jumping in. Sorry.
And no, that's fine. And the reason I wanted to talk about Jade real quick is because I think there could be a similar situation with Britt, because I think Britt, and I'm glad you brought up the selling, because I think Britt is an example of someone who was really bad at selling and continued to be really bad at selling. And then they made her a heel and put her in a position where she basically never sells. And
Mhm.
she's just like a jerk and a heel, and it worked. Like her, you go back and look at any Britt Baker match that people liked, it's generally going to be one where she was the heel and was on top for almost the entire match. Like that's where she's at her best, when she's just, uh, you know, not working from underneath. When she's working from underneath, it just doesn't work. I don't know why, but she's just not a great seller.
To, I'm gonna say something that's gonna sound, it might sound rude, but I think it's that as a babyface working underneath, the way that that works best is you being somebody that people believe is has the skill to overcome it. Like shoot, like it, like or in kayfabe, your skill level is such that you can overcome these challenges and you can come up on top. And Britt doesn't have that like facet to her in what how she's presented.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, you need both sides of the coin,
Yeah, yeah,
and I
like
think she's great at being the other side of the coin.
yeah, like I think when you compare, like here's a comparison point. MJF for a very long time was being essentially sold the same kind of way of like he is a heel, he has to come up, he's gonna start on top with somebody and then he's gonna get his comeuppance and like then it's gonna be fun. And then when he did his like kind of face run and stuff like that, the thing that MJF always would do is he would like not do matches for like a month or two and people would forget that MJF could hoop, you know? And then he would have his match and it'd be a 1 hour plus Iron Man match or a 1 hour match with Will Ospreay and people would be like, "Oh wait, yeah, MJF can go. Oh yeah, you're right." And like that's how he wins people back over.
Yeah, it's the exact same thing. So here's the thing with Britt, though. Do I think that she could go to WWE at some point? Yeah, I do. Do I think that maybe she has, so she's just quietly kind of done with backstage AEW with everything that's happened? Uh, you know, just from the stuff that we know is probably true. Yeah, I think I could see that. Has she done everything she really is going to do in this company? She's won the Owen. She's won the world title. She's had her. She's had her reign. Um, and then honestly, her match with Mercedes at All In was kind of a passing of the torch in the sense that Britt was a wrestler in the women's division from the women's division of a bygone era. And
Yes.
Mercedes really, I mean, here's the thing. I was really kind of down on Mercedes for a while, but looking back at especially the second half of 2024, she really did kind of usher in a new era in terms of like the matches just being good. And not just her, but it's like Chris Statlander is getting a push. Willow's getting a push. Tony Storm's obviously a big part of that. Mariah May is improving significantly, and you just have this situation where the right people are being presented in the women's division now, and I don't think Britt, for all of her benefits her, and she's a a strong character, just isn't really part of that right now.
Well, I think that like one thing that she hasn't done essentially is now that the TBS title has its own like it feels like its own thing now. It doesn't feel like it's like well, it was like Jade's vanity belt for so long. And like that was the time when Britt was champion, when she was on top of the women's division, the TBS title scene just didn't exist. There was no real mid card. And by the end of Jade's reign and then going into Statlander Julia Hart era with the TBS, there was a mid card scene, you know? And that was a big change for AEW's women's division was the actual existence of a mid card. Um, right now, it's like the TBS title with Mercedes is number one, feels like the A belt, right? Um, but B, it also, or two, one and two, because I used A as the example for number one, but two, also, it is the workman's belt right now for the women's division. Like, because Mercedes is doing such high match quality, you know? So it's on TV every week belt for Wednesdays for Dynamite, and then now they've kind of cemented it that Dark Garcia TNT belt is Saturdays on Collision. Makes sense. It's TBS and TNT. It works out perfectly, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, could I see Britt as a TBS champion? Yes, I could. Maybe not doing like the match every week kind of thing, but Mercedes doesn't do that either. She doesn't do a match every single week, but she's defending and doing great matches every month. She does one or two matches. It might not be a TBS defense, it might be a New Japan defense. Now it's going to be maybe a Rev Pro defense, but she does like matches that everybody talks about every month, and people don't feel weird about her not, going a while without a defense. Nobody complains about that anymore, right? Um, I could see Britt being like people say that her strength is on the stick, on talking. As a TBS champion, as every week you're all out there, do a little promo, set up a pack, set up a program every month. You have one defense kind of a thing. I think that that's the perfect usage of Britt Baker if you feel like that she has value to your company still.
Yeah, and I would think we just wanted to touch on Britt Baker really briefly because obviously over the last 48 hours or so, she's been a big talking point, and people are discussing whether or not she's going to stay in the company. So it just felt like, for our purposes, it would be wrong to at least not touch on it.
Yeah,
So we're not putting on the tier list for the reasons we already said, but we
yeah,
wanted to touch on it.
yeah. I think generally what our vibe is that we think that probably by the end of her contract she probably will leave AEW. That's a little bit away, and there
Yeah,
is still a
it is
path,
early. It is early to say,
and
but
there
it does
is,
feel like she has nothing left to do.
but there is still a path of something for her to do, possibly. They
Yeah,
just have to pursue it and feel confident in pursuing it. Is
yeah.
kind of where my take is on it. So that is Britt Baker. Quickly, just wanted to touch on her, and by quickly means first 15 minutes of the show. Next up that we want to touch on is AJ Styles. So something that we do in the community is that we have pick'ems, for major pay-per-views, and we have fun with them sometimes too about like, oh yeah, which of these things that could happen at the pay-per-view, which one are you going to double down on a silly thing that could happen, and we have like pick the Continental Classic and things like that. And so one of our community members won that, and they were able to force us to discuss AJ Styles this week. He's currently listed as a likely stay. He has a bit of a nagging injury that he sustained, and so it's possible that his timetable might be a little bit far out of when he could be potentially jumping. But he also won our award last week of the person to keep an eye on for 2025. So, Doug, what are your feelings about AJ Styles for 2025 and beyond? Do you see where do you see him going once his injury lets up?
Well, I'm gonna take a wild guess and say that this injury is probably gonna push him into 2026.
Yeah.
I think that that's pretty likely. Having said that, I mean, he's someone that I really think Tony Khan would unload for. I think he would pay a lot of money. He'd open up the wallet. I don't know that WWE would. Not to say that they wouldn't like overpay to keep him just to keep him away from AEW, but I don't think they're going to use him. It feels like right before he was gone. I mean, he had he had the Cody match, but then he also was just kind of in a tag division situation, which
Yeah.
really wasn't going anywhere. It felt very like a holding pattern for him. Um, I don't know at this point in his career what else he's gonna do. It's like I don't think he's getting another major push.
I don't think he's going to get another world title push, but I think that he could get, like a IC kind of push still, have a retirement run that's respectful.
Yeah, and I think it also depends how much longer he wants to go.
Yeah.
Like that's the other big because I think he's older than people think. Like
He was
he's
in
close.
WCW.
Yeah, yeah. It was. I mean, that's the thing. Like he's got some bumps under his belt. I think he's closer to 50 than 40. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So I think for that reason, I would say that he's probably one to watch in 2026.
Okay. Well,
yeah, but I would watch him. I would keep an eye on him.
Yeah, well, for now, we're going to keep him as a likely stay on the tier list. We're not going to move him on the tier list this week. I think that people might be waiting to see more info about his injury also.
Yes.
So that's just touching on AJ Styles. So we thank our community member, that was Frog from our community, for WrestleWatch, for wanting us to talk about AJ Styles. Unfortunately, it wasn't a lot to talk about this week, but thank you for participating with us. And the last one that's just kind of like a quick hit is Mustafa Ali on this week's episode of TNA Impact. It was kind of like a little bit of a reset episode for them after the Genesis pay-per-view and the announcement of a relationship with WWE, which is really just a relationship with NXT. He came back to TNA and announced that he is signed to TNA, so now he's a confirmed stay is the way that we phrase it, because he is staying as somebody not in a promotion that we look at for the tier list, which is AEW, WWE, Bushiroad. So that's why it is phrased as confirmed stay. And I mean, like, he's staying with TNA now. I mean, he's returning to TNA and staying with TNA. So that's the situation.
I know it's a little confusing, but essentially, yeah, unless they're jumping to Bushiroad, WWE, or AEW, that's not considered a jump in our book. And we had him as a likely stay because we didn't see him going to any of those three.
Yeah.
We thought it was likely that he was going to stay away from them, and now it's confirmed that he's just staying with TNA for a long time.
Yeah.
Or at least for the foreseeable future. So for that reason, we say confirmed stay, and he is now off the tier list.
Yeah. Next up is Thekla. She's been having a little bit of a nice shine on her recently, with focus in the tag scene in Stardom. Hate. And she had a nice little match with Athena also. For the ROH
which I still
belt.
have not watched. It was
a nice little match. It wasn't anything I wouldn't say it's anything to write home about, but it's a great Athena match, and she really shines in the Joshi style. And she was very emotional after the match too. She got to talk after the match, so I would say to check it out. Currently, she's a safe stay on her tier list. Do you think that it's time to just take her off for low confidence? Because the time that Stardom and Bushiroad in general renew contracts, if it's a yearly deal, is around now, and it doesn't look like she is leaving Stardom right now. And also, the buzz about her wanting to do U.S. dates it's been a while now since she said that, and she hasn't done any.
It was a one-off comment, just like. And I think maybe a lot of us just kind of ran with that a little bit more than we needed to, and I probably did too. I'll take guilt on that. But yeah, I think based off of that, it's been a while. I don't necessarily see any change at the moment. So yeah. I think we already had her at safe stay, so it's not like we were saying she was jumping imminently. We had her pretty much as low as you can get.
Yeah, and now it's like at the point where it seems that she's going to stay probably for another year in Stardom. So we're just gonna bump her from safe stay down to low confidence and take her off the tier list for now.
Yep, I
think that she's somebody to keep an eye on in general, because I think that I think they do see potential in her being high on the card in Stardom. Um, like the hate angle is going very well for them. Um,
Yes.
and like
They've done a great job of just refreshing a lot of their factions in Stardom.
yeah, and I think that the way that like Kamatani isn't necessarily he wasn't really the ace of that faction when it formed, but she was kind of the main character of the formation of the faction at the same time.
Hmm.
And so pushing her up to the world title is like it's interesting because like I would have thought that like maybe Momo would have been the world champion kind of person for that group as the leader kind of person of the group, you know. Um, and it's kind of nebulous about who the leader is to me at least when I watch. It feels like it's like two people sometimes. Um, but like I like that dynamic about hate.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
And I think so I think it's fine to take her off the tier list though.
Yeah. Yeah. So next up is going to be Alexa Bliss. This is a fun one.
Hang
Uh
on, let me mute my Amazon Echo next to me real quick. All right, Alexa. Okay, it worked.
okay. So here's the deal with Alexa Bliss. This came out. It started. There's been like kind of back and forth between a few outlets. So this is going to be a synthesis a little bit from a few outlets of what's going on with the Alexa Bliss situation. Um, they're in her and WWE are in a contract standoff. Bliss was expected to return to WWE this week as part of a Wyatt Six push. So she was supposed to come into Raw. She was going to join the Wyatt Six, and then she was going to get set up for the Royal Rumble. WWE had been doing this by extending her 2019 contract for time away. So she had been injured and she had maternity leave. So WWE had decided we're going to extend your contract for injury time, more or less is the phrasing of it that we know. But injury time and maternity leave, they were just like we're going to extend your contract because of that. Bliss then backed out of returning and wanted to have a new contract because like or it seems that her contract, if she had signed it in 2019, would have likely been a 5-year deal like the New Day had when they were trying to shore up a bunch of people that might have been jump risks with AEW starting. So she's looking at the situation and saying, well, you're trying to get me back and you're trying to give me a big push as part of the central angle with the Wyatt Six and everything like that. I mean, this is the thing that's going to catapult the Wyatt Six to being more than just like a mid card fodder faction into being like, now you have an ace kind of a person that you're going to really push up to the world title scene in Alexa Bliss. So why are you having me on this old deal that's not paying me a lot? I want to sign a new deal because maybe you don't even have the right to make me do this old deal. So she backed out of the creative. She wanted a new contract. WWE responded by moving the Wyatt Six to SmackDown. Presumably, no longer they're doing the creative that was originally planned for them when Bliss was around. And the thing to note also with Alexa Bliss is that she has never worked in any other wrestling promotion other than WWE. She has had no experience in wrestling before she signed there in 2013. So that's the background about Alexa Bliss in this contract situation. So first off, I would ask one. The first question is, do you think that this is just negotiation between Alexa and WWE? And then two, if it's not just that, do you think that she's actually a flight risk to jump to another promotion? It would likely be AEW given her experience.
Yeah, if she was going to go anywhere, she would go to AEW. I think it is a negotiation tactic, but that doesn't necessarily mean that she isn't willing to pull the trigger.
Mhm.
I think that, let's be honest, I think that I could see her in 2025 AEW doing some spooky match with Julia Hart. It's very I could easily see that. I think that the current AEW fan base would embrace her. I think they would enjoy what she would bring to the table, and that she has the I think she has the clout to actually get a to have this little negotiation contract standoff. I think she is doing the smart thing, and I think she could play both sides against each other, and I wouldn't be surprised if if I had to guess what's going to happen, I think WWE caves, and I think they give her a new contract.
So I want to say, yeah, I think that that's what's the resolution here is that WWE will cave at some point because like it's not her leverage here is number one. They are trying to extend a 5-year-old contract for maternity leave and injury time when it's about to expire. Um,
Extending a contract for maternity leave, by the way, it sounds very icky.
it sounds very icky, yes, and so if they're planning to give her and they're planning to give her a major push, it seems like that it involves at least 6 other people creative, possibly 12 other people's creative. Like that's a lot of people that are hinging on one person coming back in a certain way. So that is a lot of leverage that Alexa Bliss has in this contract negotiation, on top of the fact that it's possibly just not legal and kind of icky what they're doing with like extending it because of maternity leave. Um, I think that she has way more value to WWE than to re-sign her and like play ball with her than she does to AEW trying to have her join there. So that's the part that I would like to push back on a little bit is I talked about this a little bit with Britt Baker and we touched on it about like how Penta was received. And this is something that Dave Meltzer wrote about in the Wrestling Observer newsletter this week. Um, he was talking about like AEW's the current state of AEW, if it's cold or hot or blah blah blah. And he made a point that a bunch of other people have pointed out is like cold does not equal bad, and it takes a while for your after your product is heated up for it to like show in metrics that it is hot again. You know, like ticket sales don't just like like you have a hot segment with Kenny Omega and Will Ospreay, and everybody's talking about it, and it's really, really cool, and everybody wants to see this. It doesn't mean that immediately the next show, you're gonna sell out. You know, it takes time for it to ramp back up. Um, so what the point that he was then making was that if you compare how Penta was presented and received versus Ricochet was presented and received as like for like trade of two talent, Penta was kind of not really used to. He was saying not used to full his potential. We would say he probably had like run his course in AEW at that point and had kind of like done everything he was going to do. So maybe that it's kind of like two ways of saying the same thing about Penta in AEW. He goes to WWE, immediately he's pushed crazily because, as we've pointed out, all you have to do to get pushed really well in WWE is come from AEW and have that like stigma to you of like not used well enough, and then people will say like Ethan Page was a wasted gem, and CM Punk wasted his time with garbage matches and things like that. You know, like people say anything to try to get themselves over then with the WWE fan base. Um, they're really pushing him hard. They have a Madison Square Garden television show coming up where they have a package where you can get a suite where Penta will hang out with you for the entire taping, which sounds odd to me, but it's a thing that they're doing. So they're actually like whole hog in on Penta with him being pushed and everything. And the thing is that the WWE universe just accepts it. Like the way that WWE is set up is the company says something, the fans believe it, that's it, they're good, they're golden. The fans of WWE nowadays don't revolt really against the booking that's being presented to them. You know, they're not like, oh well, this person's match quality is not that great. It's about the story. You know, if their story is fun and the narrative is great, it doesn't matter if they're doing bad matches, they're over still. AEW is the complete opposite still. People say that it's not, but it still is. And it's not about the match quality either. So you look at Ricochet, he comes in, and the original push for Ricochet was look at this white meat babyface that can do cool spots and have great matches. And what happened? He didn't get over. Why is that? Because there was no meat to the bone of his white meat baby facedom. It was very lean meat, you know? It was just, oh, he has great matches, and that doesn't cut it when you have like Will Ospreay has great matches, but he has an aura about him. He has character about him. He has storytelling ability. He has promos. You know, all these people that are super over in AEW right now that have joined in the past year, it's not just about having great matches. It's about also having something extra for people to buy into their great matches with. And Ricochet initially in AEW did not do that. Then they realized that and they pivoted. They said, okay, well, that's not getting over, and people aren't buying him as an upper mid carder like we're trying to slot him in as a white meat babyface. So what if we make him a heel now? So we did the heel transition, and now people are buying it. People are into this angle with Swerve. It is selling very well for the Atlanta show. It seems like they're going to probably sell out the facility that they're booked for that show. On the heels of a Swerve Ricochet rivalry where Ricochet is doing this new character. He's getting actual time to develop a character, which is different from WWE. He didn't get time to develop a character in WWE, right? And then you also compare it to like Hurt Business. Hurt Business come in. The reason why they are over is because they have something more to them than just great matches. Yes, everybody saw Shelton come in and we're like, holy crap, where's this guy been? Why wasn't he getting pushed in WWE? They had that same reaction as what they had with Penta. Like, why wasn't he getting pushed in AEW? Same kind of thing, but there was something more to it, which was, oh, wait, Shelton's here. MVP just showed up beforehand. Well, oh, they're teasing Bobby's going to come. And, like, now this faction is together, and they're handing out business cards, and what does this mean? And who are they going after? And they're feuding with Swerve. Now they're going after the tag. It's like there's something more to them. There's an aura about them. It's not just match quality. So I think that it's kind of just my point is that it's yes, AEW is about match quality, but it's about something more than just match quality. And I think that but it's definitely not about just stories. People do not go over somebody if just like AEW tells us you that this person is over. You have to believe them. They will just dump the person if they don't believe it. And I'm worried about that with Alexa Bliss if she were to go to AEW. That is my point. And I know that was a very long tangent, but that is my point.
I think I understood the tangent and I understood the point because I think ultimately, yeah, you're saying, and I think Dave kind of alluded to this too, that, if you go to AEW, you got to earn it.
Yeah.
And if you go to WWE, you don't necessarily need to. And that's then we're not saying that it's always going to be that way. No, and in fact, you might, and I think we would argue that, 4 years ago, it was probably the opposite.
Yeah. When all those people were coming from WWE to AEW, everybody was just like, ah ha ha, look, they got wasted potential from WWE. Great, they're in AEW. Like Miro.
And that's the thing. It's like it may not always be that way. Maybe it'll switch back again. And maybe that's just how things are. They shift. Yeah. And we'll see where that goes. So Alexa Bliss though, I think we already said it's like we feel that she's going to be sticking around. It's going to be this is contract negotiations. It's probably in her best interest to just eventually sign a new contract to WWE, and I think WWE will cave.
Yeah. So our committee has wanted to just put her as a safe stay though for the time being. I understand that. I would say just don't put her on the list because I feel like it's contract negotiation, but I understand just putting her as a safe stay.
I would go safe stay too. I would put her on the list just because if someone's in like an active like contract dispute, I think it's good to have them on the list.
Yeah. So next up is Nikki Bella, which is a fun one. It was actually TMZ reporting on this one, which that's how it becomes fun. So TMZ reported that Nikki is in talks to return to the WWE. Talks only began following her appearance in the crowd for the NXT Raw debut. It seems like there was no conversations between WWE before that, and then after that, they just kind of like started chatting with each other, like, "Hey, maybe you should come back." TMZ doesn't have any other info in their report other than that. I think the reason why is that TMZ is reporting on it is, of course, because Total Bellas was a big reality show, and Nikki is currently appearing on the third season of The Traitors, which is a very popular reality show on Peacock, competition show. She is billed as a retired WWE star on that program. Of course, WWE and Peacock have relationship, so it doesn't surprise me that she's being billed as such on that program. I think personally that it's possible that this is just her appearing at the Royal Rumble, but I want to throw it to you because I think that you are a lot more confident than I am about putting Nikki Bella onto the tier list.
Yeah, I think she's coming back. I think that at this point, uh, she, as I said, she was already at the Raw debut. She's already kind of connected. I don't think this. So I'm guessing you're thinking this is just going to be a Royal Rumble one-off.
That is my vibe on it because there was nobody. It doesn't feel like wrestling outlets are talking about it. It's just TMZ, which makes me feel like it's a one-off appearance even more.
Uh, I don't know. I tend to think that she is. I don't know if it's going to be like a full-time deal, but I think she's going to sign some type of contract
Uh-huh.
where maybe it's through WrestleMania. I think that there's some. I think she's coming back for a stint.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just a 1 year deal. Maybe it's just a six months. I could be just through WrestleMania, but I think it's gonna be. She's gonna be around. It's gonna be a contract, and she's gonna sign it.
Okay.
That's my prediction.
Okay. Well, yeah. So I'm out on this one. So I just think that she doesn't belong in the tier list right now. But you are saying where would you slot her?
I would go. I'd go likely jump.
Likely jump even?
Yeah, I'm pretty high on. I think she's coming back. I think it's pretty clear.
Well, I have to inform you that our committee went one tier below you of lean jump. Is that okay with you?
I will accept that.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think she's coming in, and that the committee seems to agree with me on that.
Yeah. So how about we transition to another potential Royal Rumble storyline here? So we had Alexa Bliss. It seemed like she was going to come back and for the Royal Rumble, and now it doesn't seem like it's so likely. We have Nikki Bella, who it seems like it's possibly pretty likely we'll see her at the Royal Rumble in a week or two here. The third one here is Jordynne Grace. So she is listed as a likely jump on our tier list right now. Grace finished up her time with TNA, where she lost her presumed final match with the promotion at the Genesis pay-per-view to America's sweetheart Tessa Blanchard. The match was very good, I have to say. It was very good match. It was just hilarious to listen to a Texas crowd chanting, "You're a racist," Tessa Blanchard. Uh, I'm very intrigued to see how Tessa's time in TNA goes. Anyway, Grace is reportedly expected at the WWE Performance Center this week. So, where do we want to put her?
I think that it's close to a sure thing, as we could see that she's probably already like a lock for WWE. I think she's gone. I mean, she is gone. We know that she's gone. And I think that she will be. Yeah, she's going to be at the Royal Rumble. That's my guess.
Yeah,
So,
I think that
again, she'll be at the Royal Rumble again.
I think that's possible. She might be like the one or two entrant.
Yeah, I could see that. I
Like
mean,
maybe the two entrant, because like you'll get somebody's gonna win some match to become number one, and then she's gonna like be like the surprise. What, her? No way! Kind of thing.
yeah, I think that that's very possible, and I would say that she is a safe jump, and I really can't justify or understand anything lower than that.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I think that we've been very deliberate with her time going up the tier list, and I think that this is the moment to move her up to safe jump.
Yeah, we're very careful. We try not to like jump too quick. I mean, we're
Yeah.
not trying to be the first. We're trying to be accurate.
Yes.
And I think now is the time to say a safe jump.
Yeah, and I think when we look at the tier list again, once we're done talking about all the votes for this week, I think it will be very apparent I think people will be able to say, oh yeah, no, this makes sense where everybody is in the especially the jump side of the tier list. The next one is another TNA possible expat coming up here is Josh Alexander. He had what seemed like it was going to be his final match against Mike Santana. It was an I Quit match where Josh Alexander said, "I quit." And then after the match, he gets on the mic and it says, "Not just do I quit this match, I quit TNA." He shakes Santana's hand. Alexander was the heel in this, which is it's good way to leave. He's putting somebody over in a match and he's going out as the heel on his back. He appeared again on TNA's Weekly this week. It seems like they're gonna do one more match so that he can put over one more person. I think it's Steve Macklin that's gonna be the match. Which will be good for them to get some more push behind them. Uh, so the thing is that we know that his contract is ending in the middle of February, around Valentine's Day even. But do you think that it's likely right now that he is going to be going to? It seems like it's going to be AEW WWE. Do you think it's likely that he's going to go there, or well, before we were talking about Maple Leaf Pro, but they haven't had any shows or talked about having any other shows since they had the one back in October. Do you think that maybe he just floats around the indie scene? How are you feeling about this, Doug?
So I have a couple thoughts on this because Josh Alexander is a weird guy to analyze because it feels like for the past decade he's been rumored to be jumping from one promotion to another as one of the, I think it's fair to say he's arguably the best in-ring guy in TNA.
Oh, 100.
Arguably.
Arguably, yeah. Well, like especially in the current TNA, where Speedball's gone from TNA. Also, like I think that like it's easy to say, yeah, Josh is the best.
Yeah, I would agree. But I do think it's a situation where he's a guy that, you know, I always feel like he never would fit in. He doesn't. He's a kind of a charisma vacuum, and I hate to say that because I feel like he's someone that every single time I've seen him live a lot. Every single time I see him live, uh, I'm always just like, Josh Alexander, and I just kind of uninterested. And then the match is always great, and it's just like I'm never really bought him as a guy that excites me. And I think that that's the same for a lot of people. But it's weird because for that reason, I kind of see it's hard to kind of see where I could see him going because obviously he's talented. People like him. I think that I could see him go to AEW. I
Mhm.
could see him go to WWE, and I could see him floating around the Indies. And I have part of me wants to say I can kind of see him just kind of sticking around the Indies for a while, but also he's probably at that point where he finally wants to get a contract if it's available. But so for that reason, I almost think he's about as sure as close to a true toss up as I can find. So I think he's and I don't know where he'll go. It's I think all three of those options are about equal. Um,
Well,
so if you want to say like, hey, if that's the case, like all three are equal options, so it's 33% chance each one.
oh,
There's a 66% chance that he's going to either jump to AEW or WWE.
but if you
So for
take
that
his
reason,
66 and a two-thirds chance to jump to AEW, WWE, but you take that it's a 50-50 chance to pick to one of those, then he has 113, 116, and two-thirds chance.
the numbers don't lie.
Spell disaster for Josh Alexander at Sacrifice.
Yes. But in all seriousness, though, I would say that because of that, there is like a 2/3 chance that he's going to jump somewhere. And
Yeah.
so for that reason, I think I would go lean jump.
Okay. So I think likely jump is where I'm going. Recently, it seems like when Sean Ross Sapp gets asked about it, his vibe, and this is not him reporting because he's very good about nowadays being clear when he's saying this is my vibe versus this is what I'm reporting. And usually it's a vibe thing is not him talking about gossip. It's usually him saying somebody asking them about booking or like where's this person gonna go. Um, Sean's vibe is he will possibly go to WWE right now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I'm giving it a little bit more of an oomph then, and I'm saying likely jump then. I think that there is still the shred of possibility that he hops around indies, but I just think that the winds are blowing to him going to one of the bigger two promotions.
Yeah.
So I'm,
And
I'm
if I
feeling likely.
and realistically, I would probably agree in that vibe check. I think that I vibe more like WWE than AEW for Josh Alexander as well. So,
I don't think
you
that
know,
I think that rejoining him with Ethan Page would be a mistake, but it's probably what they would do.
what does I haven't checked. As do they have a recent thing with Ethan Page right now? What is he doing?
He it seems like he kind of is finished with NXT for the foreseeable future, and the rumor is that he'll be in the Royal Rumble and possibly go up to doing something on main roster.
I don't know if that's a good move for him, but we'll see.
I think he has some juice behind him from his time in NXT, but I think personally him sticking with NXT for a little bit longer than just this Royal Rumble season would be a good idea.
Yeah, I would get Bo Dallas vibes of him going up to
Uh,
main roster.
yeah, yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Well, for the time being, our committee is going with me on this one of putting up to a likely jump.
Okay. So I think we'll go ahead and read through the updated tier list then.
Yeah.
So
Go ahead.
I can go through it. So for safe jump, Hikuleo, Speedball Mike Bailey, and Jordynne Grace. Likely jump, we have Ray Phoenix, Ricky Starks, Malachi Black, and Josh Alexander. For lean jump, we have Zilla Fatu, Ninja Mac, and Nikki Bella. Our toss ups are Mina Shirakawa, Beth Phoenix, Michael Oku, Baron Corbin, Persephone, and El Hijo de Dr. Wagner Jr. Lean stay is Joe Hendry, Alex Windsor, Leon Slater, Samantha Irvin, Indy Hartwell, Tegan Knox, Matt Cardona. Likely stay is Sami Zayn, AJ Styles, Dragon Dia, Kofi Kingston, Xavier Woods, Mayu Iwatani, and Danhausen. And then for safe stay, we have Sari, Utami Hayashishita, Hook, Street Profits, Kevin Owens, Shinsuke Nakamura, and Alexa Bliss.
Cool. Well, yeah. So I think that when we look at it, um, safe jump makes sense altogether with Jordynne Grace up there, and likely jump feels right with Josh Alexander in that mix to me.
Yeah, and I think there's a couple people on here that I'm already like in my head. I'm gonna nominate after a certain point. After the Australia AEW show, I'm probably gonna nominate Indy Hartwell.
That feels right. Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean I'll wait until after that show,
Somebody was
but
saying that they feel like she might show up in TNA at this point.
yeah, I
Um,
mean yeah, I
yeah,
agree.
but yeah, I think that like if she's not in AEW by the Australia show, then she's probably not going to AEW.
Yeah, and then I think it's time to take her off.
Yeah,
I would. There's a couple people I think we could start analyzing at that point. I think Beth Phoenix is one that I would start analyzing.
yeah,
Um, Persephone at this point, I think if we would have heard more buzz, I think we would have heard it by now.
that's fair. Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll talk about those in the future, I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, that is it for this week's episode of the WrestleWatch podcast. Thank you all for tuning in. We have social media feeds on X, Blue Sky, and we have our Substack where we talk long form about things. We will be doing a little bit of a release about the predictions that we did for 2025 coming up soon. So yeah, please follow us on all of our social media.
All right. And for that, I am Doug.
And I'm Ryan. Hope that you all have a good week.